In this week's developer livestream, we got the Ritualist, the Paragon and the Antiquary previewed. And in this video, I want to deep dive into the Antiquary and actually tell you that the Antiquary looks way more broken than it actually looks first in the trailer, and I think it looks actually quite fun to play as well. Yes, the fantasy mode might be a little bit goofy with the guitar, but I think the gameplay looks surprisingly solid. So, as always, special shout out to all my supporters on YouTube and Patreon that help me keep the lights on. And now, without much further ado, let's overanalyze this. Yeah, the Antiquary. What can I say? So, the Antiquary is a very interesting spec. So, people didn't like trailer. People expected, just because of the card icons, some kind of card gambit, like gambler, but didn't get it, so they were upset. And I think this is a spec that looks a little bit goofy, I admit that. But the class mechanic itself looks really strong. So I personally think this will be a meta pick in a lot of game modes. It will be really strong. It can't be played currently as a support in PvE. It will only be a DPS build. They are considering to give it some boon, but right now they don't have any quickness or alacrity on it, so you can't play it as a support. And it is a full DPS build, either power or condi. And in my opinion, in all game modes, quite strong because of the class mechanic, and I think it looks quite fun as well. Yes, it might be the class fantasy not perfectly fitting to Thief or not in your interest, but I personally think it looks really potent. The Scritch Snatch works like you steal from, or it will be the steal, it procs all your steal traits, but you don't teleport to the target, and you get 2 steal skills, baseline, F2 and F3, and they will be randomly drawn from 8 attacks. Yeah, 8 attacks you will draw out of the pool, 2 of them. There will be 4 defensive ones and 4 offensive ones. That's about it. They have all different attacks, and some of them are good for your situation, some are not. It's just random at this point. But you can alter that with the traits. So let's quickly go over the skills. First one is a really potent heal that is also an evade and a leap finisher and a repositioning tool. That's a defensive artifact. It is really strong. Get a 4.5k heal that is also an evade. Looks broken. And we see this with almost all of them. They look really strong. So this is the defensive one. Also does some damage on it, but that's about it. Then you get the guitar. Yeah, the guitar. What can I say? I'm not the biggest fan of the guitar. It's just a damaging attack around you. That does also some confusion, and the last hit also stuns. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like a weird, really goofy attack. I think the damage of that looks decent, especially because it has some condi damage backed in there as well in some CC. Probably useful in PvE and even competitive modes, but I think the attack of itself looks really goofy. Then we have the server. That is really strong. It's a nice damaging attack that leaves some mines or some bombs behind. That looks very similar to the Revenant 3 on Spear. Just gives some damage and some burning. Looks really fun, and is actually quite strong, I would say, as an AoE skill. Looks really strong, I would say, as a damaging skill. This is the Cryptist turret. Again, full damage skill that just does some damage in an AoE. And sometimes a Scrit is hanging on the turret. That's the visual gimmick. Yeah, I mean, not too exciting, just a damaging skill, that's about it. Then we have another attack that does some AoE on the ground that you can see here, that applies some burning and does damage. Yeah, again, full offensive, not too exciting. You will see there are some really strong offensive ones, but the defensive ones are probably the ones that are like the most exciting in terms of like how they look. Let's go a little bit further. Then you have the Chuck Shield. It's just a projectile destruction. And also light field that does some damage. Yeah, looks like a decent skill again. And it depends a bit on the situation. You will see that some of them are really useful in some situations, but most of the time in PvE especially, you probably want to get the offensive ones. So you will see how this interacts with the traits, because sometimes you really want to get the offensive ones and the defensive ones will just be a DPS loss. So we really talked about getting RNG to decrease it with the traits so that you actually get a high DPS number consistently and not have to high roll, so to say. This is the Sephirite Sun Crystal. It's just a really nice stun break and an evade that also does some burning at the end. Okay, not too exciting. Then I think we have 1 or 2 more. The last one is the Holo Dancer. This is just a taunt skill. Really good, I would say, on competitive modes. If you put that on a point in PvP or something, really annoying. But in PvE, yeah, just a CC skill. That's about it. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like this video, be sure to leave a like. That helps out my channel a bunch. Okay, so this is the profession mechanic. And then we go to the utility skills. So the utility skills are double edges. That's the class mechanic. It's just a attack or some kind of utility skill that has another attack that you can use when it's recharging. So you can use this anti-venom draught once, then it has a 10-second cooldown. It heals you and gives you a condi cleanse. If you use it again, you get another effect of the same anti-venom draught. So you get another healing or condition cleanse and condition cleanse. But if you use it at like 10-second cooldown and you are unlucky, or I would say if you use it at 10-second cooldown, you are almost guaranteed to get the backfire skill. And this will be a skill that has a higher, it will be either punishing, or here on the healing skill will just give you a higher recharge. So it will increase the healing, but it will also increase the recharge of it. So the general idea is that when you use a backfire skill, or when you use a double edge skill, it's the second time, you have a chance to use the backfire skill. The chance will be 100% if the cooldown is 100% of the skill. If the cooldown of the skill is only 1 second left of this 10-second skill, you have a 10% chance of getting the backfire skill. So that's how it works. So you can use it 2 times the normal skill if you wanted to. If you use it and get the backfire skill, you will have the full cooldown and can't use it again. That's how this backfire mechanic works. It's very interesting. It has some gambling in there. But if you wait like for the last few seconds of a recharge, you typically will not get punished with the backfire skill. Or here on the healing skill, the backfire skill is not necessarily bad because you get a big healing burst. The normal double edge skill will typically only be used if you have a small condi cleanse or something, or a small heal. But if you really pressured, then you would typically want to have the backfire skill because it heals you half your life. So really interesting mechanic. That one is not that punishing, or not punishing at all. So the second one that we get here is just damaging utility skill, some stone squid cannon, and does some damage. And if you use the backfire skill, it will give an AoE that explodes after a while, and you can easily walk out of that one. But if you get hit with it, it does some nice damage, or like to yourself as well. So sometimes you want to get the AoE attack, because if you get the AoE attack, then it will give even more damage for you. But if you get hit by it, of course, that's not nice. So you could see the orange AoE, that's the negative one that also can damage you, but it's not too punishing either. It's a nice damaging skill, nothing too crazy, some burning on there. The next one, the third one, this one is way more punishing. So this one is a teleport. So this is a teleport attack that has a 20-second cooldown. And if you use it again, it's another teleport, but it will knock you down. Yeah. So if you use it, you have a chance of getting the backfire attack, which will still teleport you, but it will be a 3-second self-knockdown. So it will be very punishing if you use that to engage in a fight and you get knocked down, because that means that you will probably die after that if you get a 3-second knockdown without a stun break. So really interesting how they interact this, that you get a double teleport if you wanted to, sometimes even triple, but you will get punished if you use it that many times. So really cool idea, especially because this is not a stun break itself, but you will get another stun break with the next utility skill. There we go, emergency shade shield. That's a stun break. So you can use that in combination with the teleport. So if you use it, you will get a barrier and it's a stun break. And if you use the backfire skill, it will give you some exploding damage to yourself that is actually really punishing, 50% of your health, but it's another stun break. So sometimes that can actually still make you survive. So again, the double edge mechanic can come in clutch if you use it for the stun break twice, but it can also punish you quite heavily if you get just 9k damage in your face. So really interesting mechanic. This is the Kanak coin toss. That's the only one that I would say is like really close to the card idea. So this is now you just toss 3 coins, and depending on how many heads and tails you get condition removed and initiative back. And if you get heads, you also get conditions converted into boons. And if you use that as a backfire skill, it will remove some boons for you, but you will still get initiative. They thought about making it a little bit different, but this is how it works. So it will just remove some boons from you for the backfire attack, but it will still give initiative. So yeah, it's an initiative skill, probably useful in a PvE build, but it's a little bit annoying if you remove your quickness or your alacrity from you. So I'm not sure if you would run this just to backfire it, I guess. But we will see. I think it's actually an interesting design idea, but I'm not sure if I like that, to be honest, too much to use that in any build. It's too RNG heavy if I spam that too much. The lead skill is just a Scrit Scuffle. It will summon a lot of scrits that will give you every 3 seconds, if you're standing in this AoE, 2 new in general, attacks on your steel. So you get 2 different attacks on your steel, and that means you get just a lot of generation of those artifacts. And there will be an unstable script bomb in there, which is, so to say, another explosion of those that we saw earlier, just another explosion around you. So you don't want to use it typically. But the other, you will only get this on one spot, so you still get like 2 of them at least, and that means one of them might be the script bomb, but the other one will be something useful, and you can spam them or you can just keep them and they will refresh after 3 seconds as long as you stand in this field for 15 seconds. That's about it. So interesting elite skill, looks quite funny with all this grid coming up here. Negative backfire mechanic doesn't look like too punishing for most of the skills, but some of them can be quite punishing, so keep that in mind. I would say interesting gameplay wise, and you can see how this gives you different like new artifacts here. Traits are way more interesting, to be honest. Traits change how this whole spec plays, and this is what I am a little bit as a gameplay enjoyer, why I'm way more excited about this spec than the trailer gave away, because the traits are completely in contrast to Paragon. The traits change completely how you play this spec and why the artifacts are so important, why you would use your backfire skills and that kind of stuff. So really, really interesting. Traits are, yeah, of course, the first one just explains how the general mechanic works of the Antiquary. And then you get some barrier when you use a healing skill or elite skill. It's a separate cooldown for each of those, so you get 2.6k barrier baseline. Okay, not that bad, not that exciting either though. Then initiative whenever you use an artifact skill. That's what I meant. When you use an artifact skill, you get 2 initiative back. So that's really cool. Just baseline, you can use a weapon skills, use an artifact skill, use one weapon skills, use another artifact skill, and that's like how you can actually get a lot of like interesting combo potential. And that's not the classical thief gameplay where you just play weapon skill, weapon skill, weapon skill, auto attack until you get enough initiative back and you use another weapon skill. This is way more interesting because you have to get some combos going, and it's not always the same artifact skills because there will always be some RNG in there. So I think that's a really cool, interesting idea already. It will be definitely high APM, and I'm not sure if everyone will like that, but I think it's definitely an interesting design idea because it's not what we currently have on Thief, that you have to think about what you use, because normally on Thief you spam a lot of buttons that are like always the same. Here you have to think a bit more. Then you get reshuffle. That's really cool. That is just an attack or an F4 skill that reshuffles your artifacts. So if you don't like your selection of artifacts, you can use this on a 5-second ICD. It costs some initiative, removes some conditions from you, and removes the current equipped artifacts, and you get 2 other ones. So really cool idea that you can use that to say, oh, I don't want those, I want other ones, then I can use that again. Really nice to decrease the RNG there. Would probably use it more in competitive modes than you would use it in PvE, but still. In PvE, you might use this one, where you get at least guaranteed to get 1 offensive and 1 defensive artifact all the time. So you can always get the offensive ones guaranteed, so that you might get always a very consistent damage. They said maybe they will change that because, or make that baseline, because that might be what they wanted to have in the first line. But I think that right now looks okay. The last one probably looks the best. The last one here being gain an additional artifact slot. So you get just F2, F3 and F4 as artifacts. And you can use 2 artifacts before it, so to say, goes away. Because if you have 2 artifact slots only and don't have improvisation equipped, which is a core thief trait, that means you will only get 1 of those artifacts and the other one will disappear. If you use this prolific plunderer trait, you will get a 3rd artifact slot and can use 2 of those 3. If you use the improvisation trait, you will be able to use all 3 of those artifacts all the time. So really cool interaction with the core traits already. I like this trait the most here, because that's like giving you more choices, and therefore you can always get the one that you actually really want or you really need in the current situation, and you can use 2 of them. Then we have Skundering's Luck. This is interesting. When you use your F1 skill, your next double edge skill will always be successful, independent of the current cooldown. So that's really cool. That means that you can guarantee that you will get the non-backfire attack. So you can use, for example, the teleport twice and guarantee that it will not knock you down. So really cool. Will probably be more of a competitive mode trait than it will be in PvE, but still really interesting design of this trait. Then we get your artifacts have increased effectiveness, just more damage in most of them. This one gives more CC, and that's about it. It's like really like giving more power to the artifacts. That's about it. Then you get just a big damage buff. That's the one that you would probably use as the DPS pick. So I think the one on top would probably be the one that is like in competitive modes, and this one is the DPS pick for PvE. Just like 15% damage buff all the time if you use improvisation, or the first trait here that is equipped here. This one, to use 2 artifacts, you get up to 20 seconds, then get the steal again, and then you get another 20 seconds of this 15% damage buff. Just more damage, DPS build, power DPS, that's about it. That's how you would play it. Then you pilfer after using a certain amount of initiative. That's really interesting. So when you spend 15 initiative, you will get the pilfer. So you will get more artifacts without the steal. It will not trigger steal traits, but it will give you artifacts. So the gameplay loop would be you spam your initiative up until like 10 or something, then you use your artifacts to get your initiative back, spam another round of attacks, get the initiative up to 15, proc this trait, you get 3 new artifacts, and you can spam them again to get more initiative, and that's like an infinite loop of spending initiative, getting artifacts and that stuff on top of the already available steal. So really interesting trait, probably not that good in competitive modes, but in PvE looks quite decent, maybe. This one is the trait that you would use in competitive modes, barrier, resistance, and defensive artifacts ability. It's really, really good. You get stability if you wanted to, you get resistance, really strong boon, and you always get barrier. It's only for yourself, so it's a really nice bruiser trait for competitive modes, I would say. Would probably not use it in PvE, maybe in a solo scenario, but that's about it. And the last one is also quite interesting. That's the trait whenever you steal, you use your F1 skill, you get a 30% damage buff for power and condi damage, but it decreases over time. So after 18 seconds, you only have like 27%. After 16 seconds, you have like 24% damage. So it goes down with each few seconds, couple of seconds by 3%. That's the trait, how it works. I would say looks like a bursty trait. I'm not sure if you would use that in like a DPS build all the time, probably, but you have to make your rotation like really think about it, because you will want to put all your front-loaded skills, like really hard-hitting skills in the beginning after you steal, and then you have to use your order takes maybe at the end. Really interesting gameplay loop. You can see the traits are way more interesting in Paragon. I really like this trait design. I think some of them still need a bit of work, but most of them look really interesting and really cool. Really interesting just theory crafting going on with this. And I think, yes, the class fantasy might look a little bit goofy, and it might look not like completely fitting to Thief, but I personally think the traits really carry this spec. It's really cool how you can interact with the initiative mechanic, core traits, how you can make the artifacts really cool. I think it is a full-fledged DPS spec for all game modes. Maybe some kind of bruiser thief for PvP, but it looks really, really strong. Really strong. Might not be in everybody's like favorite type of class fantasy, but I actually enjoy it quite a lot, to be honest. To see how it plays, and I actually will look forward to playing it for sure. As always, let me know your takes in the comments down below about this interesting elite spec. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. Again, special shout out to all my supporters that help me keep the lights on. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.